Excellent. Hello, everyone. It's great to chat with you all. I'm going to share screen with you guys so you guys can see a little bit of what I'm seeing. And I'm going to, I can't actually see the comments, so I'll kind of go back and forth from sharing. So I hope you guys are okay with that. But welcome. My name's Steven. I am a founder and director of Lumiere. I founded Lumiere when I was a PhD student at Harvard Business School. And today we're going to talk a little bit about why do research, how it can be important for you, and ways to do it in high school. But I just want to start really quickly by talking about how I first started doing research. And it's in a program that was, I was an undergrad at Harvard. I was an undergrad student at Harvard. And there was this amazing program for about 15 Harvard undergrads to work at Harvard Business School. And that program really changed my life. I worked with a number of people who became mentors there. I also met my co-founder, this guy Dhruva, who's from Chennai, who's just incredible. And it showed me what research was like. It also showed me what real mentorship was like. I met this guy, David, here, who became like a father figure for me. He ended up passing away my senior year, but remains a big force in my life and a big reason why I care so much about providing research opportunities for top students all around the world. And that's what Lumiere does. So Lumiere is a selective research program for talented students all over the world in which you work one-on-one with researchers at places like Harvard, Stanford, Oxford, and do this kind of things that I was able to do happily as an undergraduate for you guys at the high school level. So, but before I talk a little bit about how you might do research, I would just love to learn from you guys, what fields are you interested in doing research? So if you could just throw your answers in the chat, what fields are you guys interested in doing research? So just put that in the chat. I would just love to hear. We got medical, accounting, medicine, astrophysics, amazing. Accounting, we got some work on psychology, animal science, computer science. Okay, I love this. Finance or even social issues. I love finance or even social issues. You should choose finance if that's how you're framing it. No, I'm just kidding. That is great. So we got a ton of different areas that you guys are interested in. And I think this is one of the really cool things about research is that you can do it in so many different fields. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about ways to do research. And then I'll talk a little bit about the Lumiere Research Scholar Program, which I'm super biased and love, but there are other ways to do it. So there are three main ways you can do research in high school. The first way is that you could do it through a structured research program. So Lumiere is one of these. I'll talk about Lumiere, so I won't spend too much time on it now. MIT RSI is probably one of the most famous, very prestigious in the United States program. There's another way you can do research through being a research assistant. So what that means is that you are working one-on-one or you're working underneath a researcher who's working on their own project. And so you would be doing maybe more of the grunt work for them, maybe filling out Excel or helping them out in the lab, whatever it might be. And oftentimes it's hard to find this work. So in order for you to do it in high school, you generally need to do a lot of cold outreach. So reaching out to local professors, saying, hey, can I help you out? Certainly, this is a great way for you to get into a project from someone else. And then finally, there's individual independent research. And I often have a lot of students who talk to me about this and say, hey, I've done this individual independent research project. I've written this research. That can be great. It could also be limited because if you don't know what before you, it's hard to know what is the right question and how to approach cutting edge research. But just so you know, I'm going to talk about Lumiere primarily, but there's other ways to do research, including reaching out to professors. I certainly did that when I was in college, or even doing an individual independent research paper. So here's some different ways to do research. Now, why is research important? Why might you think about doing research in high school? And there's a couple main reasons for it. So what are the core reasons that research is hard? It's certainly not easy. And so when you show that you've been able to successfully go through a research process, it showcases a level of academic excellence, which is really rare. I mean, if you think about at a university like at Harvard, for example, the professors are not taking the SAT, they're doing research. And so universities respect research as the highest form of academic achievement. It's creating new knowledge. When you do research, especially in these types of programs, you're working with a researcher, so they can advocate for you in the admission process. They can also showcase, they also legitimize the work that you've done. And then finally, research is something that you would expect to be doing, especially in the US, in your later years of college. So if you are able to do it at the high school level, that showcases the level of university readiness, which is really rare. So when universities look at students who have done research on their application, they essentially say, okay, this student is ready. The student is ready for college, and they've showcased a level of excellence, which is rare. So that's a little bit about why research can be important. And research, to your guys' point at the very first, like what areas of research are you interested in? You guys put so many different areas, and Lumiere, one of the cool things that we do is have the ability to offer research in dozens of topics. This is just 12 of them, but you could do research in psychology or in economics or computer science or chemistry or IR. And this is for you to just think about, and I should not to say, hey, here's all the cool topics of Lumiere, but for you to think about research is not just physics. Research is not just biology in a wet lab. Research can be done in places like gender studies or like philosophy or literature. So any interest that you have that's academic, people are actively doing research in those areas. And so this is one thing I want to kind of hone in on for you all. Great. I'm going to talk a little bit about some example students who have done research with us. These are 3 great ones. Asta was just accepted at Cornell, for example, so congratulations for her. And I'll talk to you a little bit about how they approach their research topic. So Avni, who's a student at the Cathedral and John Conn School, she did research on looking at urban disaster management, and particularly thinking about Mumbai city policy and how it did and didn't include informal workers in it. She worked with a researcher at Oxford for it. Asta, on the other hand, did research in chemistry with Lumiere Mentor, who is a researcher at Brown. And she looked at how the solar system has different ages depending, or different assumed ages, depending on how you looked at the isotopic signatures. So she investigated these 2 types of liters, compared them to one another, and then came up with a conclusion that was distinct and unique. And then finally, Lynn did research on how the Hong Kong protest movement used the visual arts, meaning paintings, infographics, memes, to both fuel and as an output, input and an output of the Hong Kong protest movement. And so when you think about these students, one of the things I think to think about is, to go back a little bit, why is research important? For all of these students, you immediately, when you think about, even from a niche perspective, you think, okay, Avni, she's a student that really thoughtful research in urban disaster management. She clearly cares about the environment. Or Asta, she's done this really cool research in chemistry. She clearly has the background. Or Lynn, wow, what a cool topic, the Hong Kong protest movement in the visual arts. I never thought about it. Lynn's applying to schools in the arts. And she showcases that unique background in that area because of her research. So I haven't really said much about Lumiere itself intentionally, because I kind of want to get home why research matters, why it can be valuable for you, and how you can do it in high school. I'm just going to quickly. Oh, is the screen size not? I think honestly, you guys don't need to see the text. I wouldn't read too much into it. Let me say a little bit about the Research Scholar program, and then we'll pass some time for any questions. So the Lumiere Research Scholar program is a selective program in which you work one-on-one with a research mentor to develop an independent research paper. So in the course of this program, you're working directly with a researcher from in your area of interest. The first 1 through 4 weeks focus on you exploring the topic, diving into it, understanding it, ramping up in the field. So if you're interested in economics, learning some of those foundational research papers in economics, and then spending the next 8 weeks doing that research itself. The mentors that you're working with are incredible, except for this dude, but the other ones are great. They're all researchers at top 10 departments in their field, which is not important because of some brand name, but because that means that they're really at the cutting edge of their field. And so you work with someone like Aurelia, who's at Harvard's Graduate School of Education on topics in education inequality, or someone like Sana, who's at Yale right now on topics in physics, or Bhargav, who's incredible in topics in economics. Let's just give you an idea of of the mentors in the areas the types of mentors that you'll be working with. These are just 8 of over 200 mentors that we work with and that work with us. There are 3 different programs. There's the individual research program, what I've been primarily talking about, in which you work one-on-one with a research mentor, develop your own independent research paper. There's also a topic-focused research program in which you start in a small group and then break into one-on-one from there. And then finally, there's a premium research and publication program. This is a bit of a longer program, and the goal for you is to take your paper and then submit it to a selective research publication or competition. So just for you guys to conceptualize these different programs, here's how I would think about it. You have these 3 different programs that you could choose from. And the program is selective. So research is hard. Research is certainly not for everyone. And so if you want to be successful, for us, when we're thinking about bringing in students, we only bring in students that we think are going to be successful in the program. So that's why we have an application process. You apply, we have an application form, and then there's an interview. And then if you're selected, you receive an offer, and then you would receive a mentor assignment, someone like Cody Commerce, who's an incredible person. The application deadline, by the way, is April 30th for this upcoming cohort, which starts in June, the summer cohort. So it's April 30th. Finally, what are we looking for in a candidate? We're looking for 3 main things. We're looking for someone who has strong academic background in their field, so they're doing well in school. You don't need to be a topper to be a good researcher. Certainly, like I said before, the best researchers are not people who got the best SAT scores, so they're not necessarily one-to-one, but we do want a strong academic background. We're looking for students who are curious about the world and who want to answer big questions about it. And then finally, we're looking for students who work independently and diligently. And so in your application process, think about ways you can emphasize those traits if you do apply. And ways to emphasize that are, for example, being specific about your areas of interest and specific in other projects you've done in the past. You don't need to run research in the past in order for you to be successful in the Research Scholar program, and that's certainly not a requisite for us. Okay, guys, that was a quick run through, and I'm going to pause right there. I see there's some questions on questions right now. One question about the Lumiere Research Scholar program, is it only available for students in India? And certainly not. We have students all over the world who are doing the program, students in the United States, students in places like UAE and London, in Europe and Turkey. So we're looking for the best students all over the world, and that's why we're kind of canvassing the world. Certainly a lot of students in India do the program, and I think that's because of a general excitement about it. So the cost for the program, the 12-week program costs $2,400 USD, and we do have financial aid. So if you have, and it's need-based, so $2,400. And when you think about doing research, you certainly, if you have financial need, you certainly can apply, and we have that available for students. Yeah. So absolutely. So I have a question here about individual research. How do I partake if I'm not in the IB program? So it's a great question, and the whole program is meant to provide that in-depth research project. So you certainly could do a program like this, in which you are working with a researcher, develop your own independent research. Another thing you could do is you could also reach out to other researchers. There are amazing researchers in India or all over the world that you can say, hey, send them a cold email, say, hey, here's who I am. I'm really interested in your research. Here's some research I've done on you, and I'd like to help you out. And that's another great way for you to do research, and that's something that I certainly would suggest and encourage you guys to think about doing. Excellent. Welcome.
Okay. All right. So sorry to interrupt, but unfortunately, we'll have to end the session here. I know there are a couple more questions, but I think you all can meet Stephen on his table. And I hope you guys enjoyed the session. Thank you so much, Stephen.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you. See you.